Hi, folks, and welcome. Welcome to today's webinar. We're just going to give it some time, a couple minutes as folks filter in and join us, and then we'll get started. We're so happy to have you here. Hello and welcome, everyone. Just going to give it another minute as some more folks start to filter in. We're seeing folks join now. Okay. Hi, Chris. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat if you'd like. Tell us where you're joining from in this virtual world we're in. We're so happy to have you here. It looks like we've got quite a few folks with us now, so I think we can probably get started as you introduce yourselves in the chat. Hi, Todd. Great to have you. All right, so we're so thrilled to be here today and to have you all here with us. As you know, we're welcoming Pizza Nova President Domenic Primucci, who has graciously agreed to share his family story with us, along with some trade secrets to success in franchising. So we'll be discussing some industry trends we're seeing for 2022, growth strategies, scalability solutions, and lots more. So let's get started. So for today's agenda, we'll start with just some housekeeping items. We will jump into some franchise trends that we're seeing for 2022 and a little bit more about how that relates to talent optimization with Jason Taylor. Then we'll move into the meat of today's session, a conversation between Domenic and Jason on what their vision is of the franchise of the future. And at the end of the session today, we will have some time for a Q&A. I've just popped my email down the bottom there. In case there are any inquiries, feel free to direct them my way. So if you have some questions during the session, please use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we will get to them at the end of the session. We've also kept the chat function open today, so we really do welcome your thoughts and conversation as we move through today's session. The session is also being recorded for internal use as well, so just a heads up there. So to start, I will introduce to you who we have here today. We've got Jason Taylor with us. Jason is a managing principal and franchise talent expert here at Predictive Success Corporation. He's got over 22 years of experience leading CEOs, high growth teams, franchise organizations. And before he was with us, he spent some time with big organizations such as Cara, Diageo, and some coaching with Labatt. So Jason, I'll hand it over to you to introduce our special guest, Domenic, today.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Alyssa. I'm excited for today. So I have had the privilege of working with Domenic for quite a few years now. And every time I have a conversation with Domenic, there's something that he says that's enlightening and kind of makes me think a little different and think, wow, I thought I had that opinion kind of locked in, and it kind of becomes unlocked because he thinks about things differently. Domenic really doesn't need an introduction, right? So president and one of the founders, obviously, of Pizza Nova. Pizza Nova, let's talk about the Pizza Nova for a second. Just what a success story, founded in the 60s, right? And how many times can we see something that's founded so early on and still be, a household name today, right? So Domenic, his family started it in the 60s. There's over 140 locations right now. I drive down my street and I can probably count 3 before I get to my next destination, which is incredibly healthy for a brand and says something. People want it, so they're opening there for a reason, right? And he thinks about things a bit differently than a lot of franchisors that I deal with, right? He's very forward thinking, and I think today's session is going to be learning for us all because he brings a different thought process to the conversation. So welcome, Domenic.
Thank you.
No
Glad
problem.
to be here.
Thanks, Dominic. 2022, we just came out of probably the craziest 2 years I can say any business, whether it's franchising or any business, has gone through. Some businesses thrived, some were just doing anything they could to survive, right? And it's amazing to see how people are coming into the kind of the new way of thinking about things. Some franchisee trends that I want to speak about. So no longer is the franchisor kind of, this is how it is, this is how it will be, and do as I say. Of course, there's operating principles. Of course, there's rules to the game on how we go to business. But franchisors are becoming much more of a partner to the franchisees, knowing that it's a team effort, and they have to work together as opposed to just do what I say. And I know many franchisors are on this call and some other people that are in this game, and they can speak to that as well. We have to be innovative, right? We have to become digital. Gone are the days of, we only do one form of advertising, one way of getting to our customer. We have to be innovative in the way we communicate. A hyper focus on customer experience. Competition is fierce. There's a stat, and we'll talk about this later in our conversation. There's a new franchisee opening up in Canada every 2 hours. Not 2 days, 2 hours. That's incredible, right? So we have to be much more innovative and aggressive in how we get to our customer and how they think of us, right? There's carbon footprints that we talk about. How do we come to net zero in our carbon footprint? DEI, diversity and inclusion. It's no longer a discussion, it's a footprint with organizations. It's not a, hey, I should do it. It's more of a, this is the footprint of our D&I footprint in our company, and what are we doing to be different, right? Flexible work arrangements, work hours, and just different ways to reach the customer. I'm going to just start it up now. And again, this is a casual conversation with Dominic. And like I said, use the chat box, please. Dominic is more than gracious with his time, and he's always willing to reach out and help somebody out. But I'll start it off with this, Dominic, just for a little history. As a family operated business, right, from the 60s, right? Can you talk about your guiding principles that have kept Pizza Nova grounded throughout the years? And a follow-up to that, how did those principles carry your teams through the pandemic?
It's a great question. I think that the guiding principles really, when the Pizza Nova was originated from my father and his brothers at the time, was really about quality of product. And quality drove this company up until today, and it still drives this company up until today. Several years ago, and we always went through the motion, we're a family company and so on and so forth, but really worked at the who we are. I mean, if I go back to say what my father would say, he would say that they entered into the franchise business at a time when franchises were kind of in the infancy stage of a business model, if you will. And what they did is they gave opportunity to people, to immigrants, to people that came from across the pond, if you will, in our industry, sure. And gave them an opportunity to have a business here in this land, in Canada, in Toronto in particular, and gave us that opportunity. So moving forward, I'm not going to dwell on that, but I'm going to slowly move towards where we are today. A number of years ago, we went out and said, okay, I can put up the guiding principles up on a board, and we all live and breathe it, or it just collects dust up on a poster, right, in a location. But we went out and what we did is we what's the word I'm looking for? Anyways, we asked the question to all our franchisees, all our staff here at our support office, all our call center staff, everybody that was involved with Pizza Nova, what do you feel is your values, your personal values, not what the business values, your personal values are. And then we asked, okay, what do you think the values of is the business as Pizza Nova? And we kind of, what we were trying to do there is trying to see if we're all aligned with, because you're going to enter in a workspace, or whoever you work for, or whoever franchise company that you want to invest in, they have to be aligned with your values as well. And we came up with our values. So I didn't do the work. My team, everybody did the work. Mm-hmm. And we came up with core values that really, if you think about it, were the guiding principles right from day one. Because everybody understood what we are all about. And we came, obviously quality and service became a very big portion of it. I think you kind of mentioned in your opening, Jason, about service, right? I mean, it's so important today. So quality and service are probably our two values, guiding principles that really is who we are. But there are other things as well, like leadership, family, we have innovation, community work, and integrity. These are the 7 principles we live and breathe every single day. And what's important about living and breathing guiding principles or core values is that you do talk about it. I've always say, whenever we have a presentation, whenever we talk to our franchisees, whenever we talk to our staff, whatever we discuss and whatever we plan, there's always got to be a reason, and look at our values and pick up a value on that particular project that you may be doing. So if it's something that has to do with community, well, community is who we invest in the community. We do a lot of work in the community. So now if you want to do something in your own community, what do you want to do? It's part of that. Or it's, whatever the case is let's talk about it and let's refer it back to one of our values and principles. So this way we live and breathe it on a daily basis.
I love it. I love how you had them part of it. So they actually don't feel like it's being talked down to them. It's almost we created these together. So excellent stuff. How do these principles carry your teams through the pandemic?
That's the pandemic was something that nobody could tell us that this was going to happen. It's like a big boulder coming down on you and hitting us over the head and saying we're doing everything wrong, or whatever the case is. It's all about leadership. And from my desk, it's to my people, we got to lead and we got to communicate. And I use the term many times, is that it's not just communicating. We need to over communicate, if you will. We're all leaders. Our franchisees are leaders of their little business. I mean, franchising, if you think about it, and I learned this in the last number of years, but really in this time when you say about the pandemic, is that we are a collection of small businesses under one brand.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So these small businesses, these small leaders, it's not that they're small leaders, but you know what I mean, that these leaders, these franchisees have invested into your brand. And they've invested into franchising because they're looking for support. They're looking for guidance as well. So it's up to us to give them that guidance. And it's up to us to lead and to communicate and continue to communicate, because things changed on a dime. They didn't change by weeks. They changed by the hour at certain times, right? So it's about a matter of doing that. And really, because we were really strong with family, it's looking after each other, right? Families, what do you do as a family? You look after each other, look after one another. And that's what we did. That's what we took the bull by the horn and said, you know what, we need to look after each other. It's that meant that, just because we're pizza, doesn't, everybody thinks, oh, you guys, because you're pizza takeout, we're thank God we were able to operate still. We were deemed essential, but not necessarily, we got hit hard as well. So what we did is, at the beginning, again, family guiding us, is what are we going to do for our franchisees? And what we did is we went out and said, okay, you know what? royalties, let's forgive royalties for the next 3-4 weeks, completely forgive it. And then we slowly brought it back, not all at once, percent every so often, till we got back to where we used to be. But that helped them, that at that beginning stage when, dollars and sales are just completely plummeted. You didn't know when the end was, or the bottom was going to close off or not.
Yeah, the key message I get from you is communication, right? And what resonated with me was over communicate, right? Repetition is good, right? And I find that when you get that communication, when it's over and it's repetitive to you, you feel like you're a partner then, and you feel like somebody's actually feeling it with you, right? Domenic, you often talk about it's not you, it's your team, right? And when every meeting I've had with you, there'll be some time where I talk to you and you'll say, well, it's up to myself and the team, right? How would you describe your executive team? What team do you, how do you describe kind of who you are as a team, and what behaviors do you look for when building that executive team?
Okay, so I'm going to backtrack a little bit here, and I'll say, you said that it's not just me and it's the team. And I think as a leader, you have to realize that. Sometimes as leaders, we think, oh, it's me, it's up to me, and I want, it's the ego you have, and so on and so forth. It has nothing to do with that. Everybody's heard me say this in my organization, from all my franchisees to all my staff. It has nothing, whatever decision we make, it has nothing to do about me, Domenic Primucci. It has to do for the betterment of the brand of this company. And how do you do that? You do that with your team. You do that with in this particular case, you're asking about my executive team. Well, I have to trust my executive team. I have to trust that they're going to, through their experiences, they have a lot of great experiences too. And you have to build that team that it's not necessarily carbon copy of who I am, but something different. They're going to bring something different to the table. Their different expertises that I may not have that expertise. So I'm going to lean on them.
Sure.
To say, okay, you know what do you think about this? We all throughout our times, we all have different experiences, and we all have different things that we know we're good at, and we know that we're not good at, so on and so forth. So we have to build that team around myself and the leaders to really have that we're together and we can make a decision, we can find a solution, because we have different experiences and different talents that we all bring to the table. And I think that is really, really important. That they all have, their talent is different than what your talent is.
Yeah, and trust. That's the key word I take for me, is trust. Sometimes it's hard. We feel like we should do it one way, but if somebody's an expert in that field, let's trust them and go with it, right? Frontline talent, specifically in the hospitality world, is tough to keep. Turnover in the hospitality world is higher than most sectors of any organization, right? How do you find and retain your frontline talent at Pizza Nova and keep them?
That's a tough one, because we're franchise based. Franchisees are responsible for their frontline talent more so than what we are, but we have frontline talent as well from our perspective, in a sense that we have a couple corporate locations. We have a call center to employ, and it's important that, again, making feel people at home, part of the family, continue to communicate. I'm not the person who sits in my office and nobody knows who I am, or maybe just buy a picture. I'm out and about. I'm out in the call center. Everybody knows me in the call center. I'm with the people. And is it hard to find people? 100%. We're all in, especially today. I mean, today everybody's in this position at this moment. I just had this conversation earlier with somebody else, but you need to take the time. Don't rush it. and find the people, because you need to find the people that are aligned with your business. You can't fill a position just to fill a position. Yeah, you're bringing a body in, but not necessarily that body is aligned with what you're going to do and what you want to do, and so on and so forth. So you need to build that passionate person that's passionate about your brand and about who you are. But how do you do that? You do that by communicating. Again, communication is it's a big word in the sense of everybody talks about communication all the time. But if you don't, it's one thing to talk about it, but one thing to do it. It's another thing to do it. And I've said this to even all my staff and my franchisees, is that, we're coming up with this. For example, we came up with a service strategy a number of years ago. And again, we did the same thing as our core values. We brought everybody together in multiple workshops throughout the year to build a proper service strategy that everybody believes in. I said, everybody did a fantastic job. Now comes the hard work.
Yeah.
Is implementing and executing.
Yeah.
So same thing with communication. We can say this, but if you don't execute and implement it, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. Taking action, right? It's one thing to have the idea. It's another thing to actually make it granular and actually take the action, right?
100%. You need to take the action.
Yeah. You said something to me once, and you said belief, when you were talking about the passion there, you were saying belief fuels passion, and passion rarely fails, right? So when you fuel that passion and create that belief, it sounds like that's what you're saying as a franchisor. You need to create that belief amongst your franchisee world, and they have to create it amongst their team as well too. Why are we doing this? And what's in it for all of us, as opposed to just me, right?
Right. I mean, when we interview, potential candidates for franchisees, well, why do you want to be a franchisee of Pizza Nova?
Yeah.
I mean, there's multitude of franchise-based businesses, but why Pizza Nova?
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Let's talk about DEI, diversity and inclusion, for a second, Domenic. I remember years ago, we would talk about what to multiple clients, what is your footprint in diversity and inclusion? And sometimes I get that look across the table of, what are you talking about, Jason? Right? Like, what is that? Now, fortunately, when I bring that subject up, they actually have a footprint, and they have a plan on how they make sure they're inclusive and they're diverse, and they're forward thinking. And I just wanted to talk briefly. What is Pizza Nova? What are they grounded in for their DEI footprint, and how do you bring that into the organization?
I'm going to step back there as well. I mean, from a diversity, equity, and inclusion, from my father and his brothers at the time, and moving forward, I think they were always open to people from whatever walks of life they come from, or whoever they are. It didn't really matter. I mean, I'll tell you, we had some restaurants in the early days, and you know what? There was women managers.
Yeah,
I remember working for them because as a kid in my teens, working for them. So it's always been part of who we are. I think it's a testament to who my father was, in the sense of giving people a chance. And it's important to give people a chance, no matter what walks of life we come from, because we're all human beings, and we're all there to put food on our table for our families, right? So as I said at the beginning, they gave the opportunity to some people coming into this new country an option to own a business, so they can put food on the table.
Sure. Create a better life for themselves.
So that kind of just became who we are. And you're absolutely right. Now, in the earlier days, there's, it's not as talked about today. It's a hot topic. What are you doing for diversity, inclusion, equity? I mean, if you look at our company from a support office point of view, we have all different types of diverse people, inclusive people, equity, doesn't matter. Everybody's here. Yeah, I don't have a mandate to only hire certain people. That's, as I said earlier, I'm hiring people for their talent, not for who they are in a different background or whatever. they believe in. No, at the end of the day, it's to believe in the system, believe in the brand, and as long as you can do the job, then it's fine.
Yeah.
And we've had that always, even from a franchisee point of view. If you go into our stores and our locations, you'll find a diverse franchise group, and this I think in the franchise industry you get a lot of that.
Sure.
Because there's options to offer somebody a position where they can grow and build their family wealth, if you will. And so we're never, that doesn't come up in the sense of, well, we need to hire more of this type of person because of diversity. No, I don't think that ever really is there in our conversation, because we are diverse. You come, like, if you were to come and walk through our offices, you'll see that, right? I mean, so
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it takes you, your office takes you through an entire journey, actually. Domenic, when you think of the franchise or franchisee of the future, what does it look like to you? What behaviors do you think are needed to be successful in any franchise, right? So what do you kind of say, hey, you really need these behaviors, and you need to hone in on this to make sure that you're going to be successful along the way?
The franchise of the future, I think it's you kind of hit a little bit about that at the beginning of the webinar, where you have to be it's not a solid line, black or white. There's more gray area, if you will. If you then just explain that in a second, is that we are on together as teams, partners, as you said. We're more partners, not partners in financial, but partners in building, and understanding that together we are better than one. I have ideas, they have ideas, my team has ideas. There's could be 1,000 ideas. We can't do 1,000 ideas. It's just impossible. Yeah. But you have to talk it out and communicate this, and then see where the best idea or the best option or the best process or whatever the case may be. But that is only as together you do that. So because there's the franchisee, by the most part, is on the front line, more so than anybody else. Sure. So they understand what happens when a customer comes in, or they understand what happens if you're going to introduce a new item, new menu item, the process to build that item.
Sure.
And what happens on for our case, a Friday night is our busiest night at 6 o'clock at dinner time. Can we do that item? Can we make that item in our line at that time? Or is it going to cause problems? And then what happens, if it causes problems, then the customer is going to suffer.
Yeah.
So so you need to talk it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And be partners with each other, and because it's all for the common good, right? We're all here to get better. We want, and it's about that. It really is. We start again back to communication. It's communicating. Yeah. And talking.
Yeah. Domenic, you're now at over 140 locations, and I know personally from dealing with you how much customer experience means to you, right? It's in your blood, and it is something you talk about every time I'm in a meeting with you. As a sought after leader, and not being able to be in each location, it's physically impossible. How do you deliver a consistent customer experience every time at every location? It's something that was one of the questions that was handed in ahead of time, that people are wondering, how do you do that? Because it's in your blood, but now when you're looking at a location that's miles and miles away from you, you're not able to actually do that for the end user. So how do you ensure that happens?
Wow, it's what it's a passion. It's a passion of ours to as I said at the top, quality and service is one of our core values. Service is we believe that service is key to whatever you do, whether you sell pizza, whether you sell pens, or you sell shoes, or whatever you sell. From yourself, you're trying, selling software to help find people and so on and so forth. You got to have service. You got to develop that relationship with the customer, and you got to strongly believe in it. If you don't believe in it, then things will suffer. And we meet with our franchisees, meet with our staff here. I know the pandemic is slowed it down, so we had to do more Zoom stuff. But however, we did a lot of workshops with our franchisees prior to the pandemic, and we met with them, just put workshops aside, with meeting wise, just with, stuff that we discussed, the business was about 3-4 times a year. And then we added another 3-4 times a year on workshops. Mm-hmm. Plus we have district managers on the road meeting with them once every week or 2 weeks. So we're always present. We're always around. We're always discussing different things. The workshops have really helped, because what the workshops has done, we were educating them on different aspects of the business, how to become better leaders, how to become better number crunchers, how to become better at, noticing different things, and so on and so forth. So it's about building the basis and training and coaching. Mm-hmm. Somebody said once, and I'm sure everybody's heard this, I'm going to train the guy and then he's going to leave. Yeah, 100%. But if you don't train him and he stays, then what?
Yeah.
Then you're going to have a terrible product. You're not going to have great service. So this is the adage that we take, is with our franchisees, we bring them together in a room, and we like I said, it's a workshop. So it's not me doing the work. It's collaboratively, we're doing the work. Mm-hmm. And we understand what it entails to do different things. So, and we do this for our service as well. And we've talked about our service. We have a very simple mantra on how we do our service. I mean, it's I know you've heard maybe like a 3x3 matrix type of thing, where we call it welcome, wow, chow. And, welcome the customer, wow the customer, and on the way out you're saying chow, because chow is part of our DNA. Yeah. And it makes it simple, because it is simple in a sense. Sometimes we overthink things and we make it more difficult. And it's simple to service the customer. What does the customer want? They want great service. They want a great product. They want you to say hello, good morning, good afternoon, whatever the case is. And hopefully that they in turn give us their loyalty. And it's something in our DNA that we always discuss in our communication. The communication can be about finance, for argument's sake, but we always come back to the service. Sure. In that discussion, it's always talked about service. Yeah. So and us being on the pulse, we have the pulse for it. Us being there and understanding. So we have the district managers there. We understand what's happening with the business. So us having the pulse of the business, our franchisees understand that, we're not just talking hot air. We know what we're talking about, and they believe in it and they see it.
Awesome. Domenic, innovation is nothing new to Pizza Nova, right? So from your grocery offering to plant-based pepperoni to kind of everything that you guys do, or you're always looking for what's new. A lot of organizations are looking to how they can kind of grasp onto that innovation journey. Can you take us through how you do it, how that journey starts, and the process for being innovative and carrying it throughout your organization?
Sure. One thing, innovation is, again, part of our core value. So it's always in our mindsets, is how do we get better at what we do every single day. We're a company that, this year we're going to hit 59 years in business. We're approaching our 60th year next year. And how do you stay relevant? The only way by staying relevant is by innovating.
Mm-hmm.
You know, change. And I hate the word change, it's evolve. Really, we evolve over time. I mean, a number of years ago, I would say about 12 years ago, we evolved, we changed our look, we changed our calling card, our logos and everything, because we felt that we needed to evolve and capture where, you know, to move forward, to just stay relevant for the next 40 years or whatever the case is. So it's always there in our DNA to continue to work hard at who we are and how do we evolve and how do we get better. And it's not just about menu innovation. I mean, I know that's the biggest one, but it could be technology. I mean, we've been working on, it's been taking some time, but, you know, because of the pandemic, things have really slowed down, but, you know, new POS system that's going to be rolled out probably, hopefully in the next few weeks, scheduled for a couple of weeks now, but whatever. I mean, it's within the next few weeks. By the end of March, we'll have a new POS system. We're looking at revamping our app and online system. That's going to take some time too, but you're always looking at doing different things. And that's innovation, and because you got to stay relevant to where we are in the marketplace, but also with technology in the world, right? I mean, we can't hide from technology, because then you're going to get left behind.
Yeah.
And in food wise, I always look at menu innovation. You know, you see lots of trends in this world, and I don't like jumping on the bandwagon of trends a lot. I try to stay away. I kind of say, I look at, if you want to say trend is a word, something that is a shift in the marketplace more so than a trend. So if you look at a shift in the marketplace, that drives me. You know, it's like the better for you products, you know, whether they're better for you or not. I mean, everybody's different. I mean, you know, a number of years ago, we were gluten-free pizza, gluten-free products. Then, you know, last couple of years now, it's been about plant-based. You know, everybody's different, and these dietary times are different. I believe that plant-based is here. It's a shift in the marketplace. When we were the first and only in the world of raised with antibiotics products, we were the first and only pizza place to start a number of years ago with pepperoni.
Yeah. And
I think there's only two, us and another company, that still only have raised with antibiotic products, pepperoni. Pepperoni is our number one. The reason why we picked pepperoni is it's the number one topping.
Sure.
We believe that there's a shift in the marketplace. The consumer, the future consumer, is looking at that. The young kids are looking and saying, why should I come to you? Why should I buy from you? What are you doing in the marketplace from a food perspective? What are you doing? So, you know, we look at that saying, well, that's a shift, because, yeah, you know what, maybe myself, I've been living with pepperoni from the previous pepperoni, and it's fine. And I've lived all this life and I'm okay with it. Yeah. But the future person, the future customer, not necessarily wants to see that you're doing something better for the environment or whatever the case is. So you look at that and you say, that's a shift. That's just a trend. That's a shift. And we did that shift. And we've always looked at, you know, we have like 5 or 6 proteins now that are in that realm of raised with antibiotics. But that's what happens. That's how you move forward. And we look at that, and we, you know, in the last couple of years, we did the plant-based products. You know, we have the plant-based pepperoni. We have the plant-based chicken bites. Again, we went with plant-based, with pepperoni, because pepperoni is it's the number one product that we sell. Yeah. So we felt that's, you know, plant-based products were coming on strong a few years ago. But we didn't have the pepperoni, and we didn't want to make that leap into just any product. We want to ensure that the product that we come out with, you know, we are known for our quality. We are known to do this, that we're not going to roll out a product that is not, in our minds, great taste and great quality. Sure. Because then we're damaging who we are as a company if we're not our loyal customers, saying, you know, they're trusting, and they're trusting us to always come out with products that, you know, they love.
Sure.
Where we can't come out with something that is just because let's bring it out just because we need to bring it out. So let's hurry up. No, that's not the way we think. There's lots of testing going on before that.
I love it. Domenic, a couple questions before I go to the questions that some people have already submitted. I said earlier in our conversation, a new franchise opens up every 2 hours in Canada. That's still, I've already said it, and every time I say it, it astounds me on how big that number is. What advice would you give to any new franchise leaders?
Great question. Be yourself. Be honest with yourself. If you need to be vulnerable, be vulnerable. I'm vulnerable. I'm vulnerable with my staff. I'm not afraid of that. I wear my heart on my sleeve, so it's who I am, and that's what I'm made of.
Yep.
I think it's and always, especially in the franchise business, always think about, you got to think about your staff, but your franchisees are your partners. Your franchisees are the ones who invested in you. Without them, you don't have this company.
Mm-hmm.
So really, really work hard to have the relationships with your franchisees, and always do something that's going to help benefit them, because a great franchise system and how it progresses and how it grows is by franchisees making money. At the end of the day, it comes down to making money.
Sure.
If they can make money, they can live a life, they can have a life, they can put their kids through university or whatever the case is that they want to do in their life. If they can do that, you will have a healthy system. But back them up.
Yeah.
You got to have their backs, because if you don't, and you're just going to butt heads, well, you know what? Yeah, you may be sticklish on your own. Well, we have to do it this way. We have to do it this way. 100%, we do. That's the operation. But there's a way of getting to do it that way. Like, it's not just hit them over the head. Well, let's talk about it.
Sure.
Explain it to them. Teach them. Coach them.
Yeah.
Why you do things certain ways. You know, they bought your expertise, so give them your expertise.
Give them it. Yeah.
Right?
Be generous with it. Be generous with it.
But again, be honest with yourself, be yourself, but don't take for granted the franchisees. Never, never in a million years. I don't. My mantra every single day, if we go into a meeting and corporately here, and I'm the one who sits in that meeting, and I'm backing up my franchisees.
Sure.
All the time.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Domenic, again, I'll say it again. There's a Pizza Nova on almost every corner now, right? If you were to look back, is there anything you would have done differently as you scaled? And I'm sure that there's a list, but if you could pick 2 or 3 things where you say, man, I wish I did that differently as I scaled. And the reason I asked the question is because there's so many people that are saying, hey, I have 2, 3, 4 locations, now 5, and I want to scale. Speaking to somebody like yourself who has, you know, Pizza Novas everywhere right now, is there anything you look back on and you say, man, I would have done that differently?
You know, I don't know if I would completely say that I should have did something differently.
Yeah.
Because then you have regrets. And if you have regrets, then you're always going to think about that. You got to move on. You got to, you know, something happened and it didn't go the way it planned. Move on and learn from it. Learn from it and use it in your next project or whatever the case is. But don't have regrets, because if you have regrets, it's gonna weigh on you.
Yeah.
And I don't look at it that, you know, I should have did this for me. Yes, you're absolutely right, Jason. You know, there are times when I should have said, you know what, I should have did that differently. But I learn from it and I move on. Mm-hmm. And the next time I tackle it, I take what I learned from that and I apply it
Yeah.
to my next, whether it's right or wrong. It's not about being right or wrong. It's about learning, and we're here all to learn. As I said at the beginning, I have a team, and we all learn from each other.
Sure.
We don't just learn from Domenic Primucci. We learn from each other. We learn from our franchisees. We learn from everybody, because that's what's going to help you advance and scale. You know, scaling is not easy. Scaling is hard.
Yeah.
You know, because it's a risk. At the end of the day, it comes down to risk, and you have to, but you have to believe in your system, and you have to believe in it and really push hard at it, and understand. And you know, I'm a different. I'm different in that sense in the franchise world. I think you said that earlier, and again, I back up I have my franchisees back all the time. And, you know, we have to build, and we have to build together. If we don't build together, then what are we building for?
Yeah.
You know,
3 key messages I would take from our discussion so far would be communicate. That's first and foremost. Second, I would take is trust. Third, I would take is permission to make mistakes, right? So when you make mistakes, just like you alluded to, just learn from them and move on and try to adjust going forward. Right. So I'm Alyssa, I know that there was a lot of coming in throughout some questions. I'm going to pass it over to you right now to just take some questions from the attendees to ask Domenic some questions and get us to some great answers.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Domenic and Jason, for a really honest, great discussion. I think lots of awesome sound bites for our attendees to take away. I'll start out with just a comment that came through from Lou from the Canadian Franchise Association. This came through early on in the webinar, and it's just very sweet, so I wanted to share it. He said, I have the privilege of knowing Domenic personally and professionally, an amazing rock star professional who cares so much about his staff, his franchisees, the customers and community, i.e. charity fundraisers. Definitely a class act. And the Pizza Nova brand is so delicious. And then he added in, that's amore.
Thanks, Lou.
Sweet comment that I thought I should share. One of the questions that was submitted or actually in advance of the webinar by someone in our network, you may have touched on it a little bit, Dom, but I just want to bring it up in case there's anything you want to add. They said the pandemic was tough on frontline workers. How do you continue to be a source of inspiration for exhausted or disengaged people?
Yes, and the pandemic has done this to everybody, including myself. Listen, there are times when I'm exhausted and how do I get myself going? And again, too, you know, we're all human beings, and this is where we at. You know, it's just, you know, sometimes you know, what we kind of talk a lot about is, you know, we appreciate that we're open. We appreciate that, you know, I have a lot of friends in the restaurant business that have been completely shut down, and they're opening, they're not opening, and so on and so forth. And I feel for them 100% because they're good friends of mine. So what do? We, again, communicate, talk. What are we going to do today? Well, how are we going to do? Yes, we understand that you have an issue with staffing, or you have an issue with, you know, personal issues. We do, so it's about discussing and talking. And if it means that my franchisee needs to talk to somebody else, not necessarily, you know, their peer franchisee, their district manager, or if they don't, you know, they say, you know what, I want to speak to Domenic. You know what, my phone is open. I get calls from my franchisees. I have an open line. I don't have a closed door policy. I have an open door policy. I mean, we have also at our company, we have a wellness program where we have a trained psychologist on staff, free service to all my franchisees, free service to all my staff. If there's anything that you need to talk about, go through, service is there for you. We don't need, I'm not privileged to any of that information. I don't want to be privileged to that information. It has nothing to do with me. It's personal. But we're here for your better health. So that's one thing. The other thing is to motivate is, you know what? We need to continue to do what we want and be passionate about who you are. Be passionate. Now, how do you motivate? We motivate through passion. That's how I motivate, right? And we want to continue to give a great customer service. And we kind of, and again, we talk it out. We coach them. We, first you train, then you coach, and you can re-coach and continue to do all that work. And if you don't do that, then somebody's going to not necessarily be motivated. We have all sorts of different communication, whether it's phone, personal one-on-ones, on-site. If it means that I have to go on-site, I'll go on-site. We're not afraid of going on-site. Where, it's newsletters and so on and so forth, Zooms, meetings, workshops, it's all part of it. And I think when you put everything together, it's like a package, and then becomes motivating that way.
Yeah. Wow. So important and multifaceted approach. And again, leading the charge. I love that wellness program that you have. I think that's so important, especially with what everybody's kind of gone through the last couple of years. So that's great to hear. I'm just looking at the chat here. We had a question come through from Todd in the chat. So he says, Domenic, my spouse Marcy and I are McDonald's owner-operators and frequent customers of your great operation. For decades, pizza and Chinese food were the pioneers of delivery. The pandemic accelerated the penetration of the delivery concept and flooded the market with QSRs and casual dining players trying to survive the pandemic. How did this proliferation of new entrants impact your business?
Great question, Marcy. As you said, we are, pizza and Chinese were basically the food that you got delivered. And prior to the pandemic, this kind of started happening prior to the pandemic with the third-party delivery apps, with Uber Eats, Skip the Dishes, and so on and so forth. And we looked at it and we said, we tried it. We had some test markets with the third-party apps, for example, and we embraced it. We didn't say let's fight it, but embrace it, because you know what? It's how the world has evolved. I know in the restaurant business, and Marcy can attend to this, is that we know the costs are outrageous and so on and so forth, but we're not here to talk about costs, right? So, but you look at it and we said, okay, let's embrace it. And we worked out a deal with Uber Eats. We first started with Uber Eats and so on, so moved on. We have our own delivery system. We have a delivery system that works. We don't need somebody else to deliver for us. So we worked out a system we were very early adopters with this. And we worked out a structure where the third-party delivery apps became another way of ordering our food. But we'll deliver it. So we decided we want to deliver it. And that's what we did. Now, I'm not sure if I'm getting to your answer of what you particularly asked, but I'll get there. It's done. It's opened up the market to anything and everything. And I think people will try all these different food items that they can get delivered. And the pandemic has really, really spearheaded that and really made it take off, because now you're at home, you can't go to your favorite restaurant, and you got to order something, and you, other than pizza, and you're going to order burgers in your case, or steak, whatever the case is, pastas, whatever it is, doesn't really matter. But the consumer took their dollar that they used to spend in the restaurant and shifted it to this delivery model so they can eat at home, because they can't go to a restaurant, in particular in our market here in Ontario, more so. So I think that the dollars were still there for us to continue to survive and continue to do what we do. Has it impacted us? Yeah, sure it has. However, it's up to us to continue to give that great product and give that great service. And that was our message to our franchisees. It says, listen, we know that this is here. We know that your neighbor who's a restaurant is selling to your customer through Uber Eats. That's fine. But what are we going to do better? What are we going to do to stay relevant and get better? Well, it's continue to give great service and great quality product. And how are we going, and the companies that are going to come out of this pandemic are the ones that invested in this, in giving great quality, great service product. Because at the end of the day, a restaurant or food service, in this case, not everybody, I'm sure not everybody's online is about food service, but in our world, in the food service world, it's about the experience. It's about having a great product. You enjoy the product, you enjoy the people you're circled around with, and hopefully that company gave you a great service that you can talk about and say, you know what, they were fantastic, their driver was great, or the person on the phone was great, or whatever the case is, because there's always, even though technology is at the forefront now, there's still a human-to-human interaction in our business. Somewhere along the line, there's always a human-to-human interaction. And that's what I kind of explain to my team and my people. There's always, doesn't matter where, there's somewhere along the line, there's a human-to-human interaction, whether it's talking on the phone or the driver coming to deliver your food. So let's do what we need to do, get better at it.
Yeah, I'm what I take away from that is staying true to your values and your purpose as an organization, and then also just rolling with the punches and sticking with the market changes.
Yeah, you have to adapt.
Yeah, exactly. We just have a couple minutes left. There's a couple questions that we won't get to, but I see two that actually have similar themes, so I think we'll roll those into one.
Sure.
The one that was submitted already was, have you experienced backlash in rolling out programs or initiatives with owners, and how do you handle this? And then we have another question that came through the chat just now from David, that says, regardless of how hard you work to make each franchisee a success, we always have a few bad apples. And how do you deal with those that are just not getting your concept? So kind of similar themes there.
Yes.
It's a tough one.
It's a tough one. Yes. And this is one that, everybody, the great theories is always, it's work on your top guys, and always work with your top guys, celebrate your top guys, and that's what it's all about. You're absolutely right. It is all about that. Celebrate your top guys, celebrate. But you know what? We're only as good as our weakest link. And my staff look at me and say, well, what about this guy? This guy's doing great. I said, 100%. I never said not to celebrate what this franchisee is doing. I said 100% celebrate, and we need to show and let everybody know. But the ones that are having a difficulty, we need to work on. They bought a franchise. They didn't go on this on their own. What's the role? And I always say, what's the role of the franchisor? The role of the franchisor is to support, give guidance, teach, coach. If you're not willing to do that, then don't be in the franchise business. Because that, quote unquote, bad apple, as what you said, Alyssa, it's not necessarily a bad apple. They just maybe are not getting something. And you have to help them. And you have to exhaust it to the whatever. Exhaust it till the end, till whenever they're going to see the light, if you will. Because that's what they bought. If they had the expertise to be on everything, they would be on their own. They'd open up ABC company, ABC Pizza, and away they go. And there's those, and they'll do great, and they'll do fine because they get it. But a lot of franchisees are not are not knowledgeable in every little thing. It's just like I said at the beginning, I hire my people to, to fill in the gaps that I have. Well, franchisees doing the same thing. They're hiring us and become part of our brand because we have the expertise to help them through it. But if we're not willing to help them through it, then you're always going to have, not only going to have one bad apple, you're going to have a franchise system that's going to be, a lot of bad apples. And I am very proud, and I'm not afraid to say it. I'm very proud of the fact that we don't have bad apples. We have a few struggling stores, 100%. Everybody does. But our percentage is a lot lower than the norm. And that's because we take the time to help them through whatever it is. Sometimes it's not even, sometimes it's not even business oriented. Maybe they're having a tough time in their personal life. And you have to get that. You have to get that out of them and help them through it, because that's going to help them on their business side. So I go back and ask the question, do you know what the role of the franchisor, what it means?
Thanks, Domenic. Jason, I'll pass to you to close us off.
Yeah, Domenic, thank you for your time today. The amount of questions, and I'm sorry we didn't get to every question that was submitted. Domenic is a sought after speaker and people want some time with you. So Domenic, I might, make some time with you just to get some answers from you, just so I can email those answers out. But I just want to thank you for your generosity with your time today and your advice. I took some real key messages. Like I said, communication, trust, make mistakes, take calculated risk, and be partners, right? So I thank you for being a partner with me. And I'll just close it off with that. Thank you for your time and your knowledge today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Alyssa. Thank you to everybody that's on the call. Hopefully you're all got what you wanted to get out of this. And even if you take one or two things and apply it, go for it.
Thanks so much, Domenic. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye. Thank you.